Chapter 8, The Shadow's Hand Opening Quote. In darkness, the faintest light is a call to action. Resistance proverb. News article, headline, Vatican accuses Zion of cyber espionage as tensions mount. Rome, Vatican State, December 20th, 2085. The Vatican Empire has formally accused Zion of engaging in cyber espionage, claiming that its networks have suffered a series of coordinated attacks, allegedly traced back to Zion's advanced neural systems. Pope Pius XIII delivered a public address condemning the malicious interference and asserting the Vatican's right to defend itself. This is not merely an attack on the Vatican, the Pope stated. This is an attack on faith, on the sanctity of divine order. Zion's relentless technological overreach threatens the very fabric of our humanity. Zion has denied all allegations, labeling them as baseless propaganda designed to justify further militarization under the guise of a holy crusade. Ramses II, speaking from New Jerusalem, dismissed the claims as a desperate attempt to sway global opinion in favor of a faltering regime. Meanwhile, independent analysts warn that the escalating tensions between the two superpowers risk plunging the world into a digital Cold War. With both sides deploying increasingly sophisticated cyber strategies, the Metasphere has become the new battleground for ideological supremacy. Intro Extra, excerpt from an intelligence briefing, subject, Escalation of Vatican-Zion hostilities in cyberspace, prepared by Resistance Operative, CIFER, observed trends. The Vatican has intensified its counter-cyber operations, deploying AI-driven firewalls and neural traps to combat Zion's perceived incursions. New entities in their system, likely human-AI hybrids, have shown remarkable adaptability. Implications. The Vatican's advancements suggest an acceleration in their neural conditioning experiments. These measures are not purely defensive. They aim to assert dominance within the Metasphere. Recommended actions. Resistance operatives should prioritize identifying vulnerabilities in Vatican AI constructs while ensuring Zion's focus remains diverted from resistance operations. Narrative timestamp, December 23, 2085, Vatican Neural Defense Grid. The hum of the Vatican's neural defense grid was nearly imperceptible, a vibration that lived just beneath the edge of awareness. Flavia adjusted the neural visor secured over her eyes, its interface flooding her vision with layers of cascading code and shimmering holographic overlays. As she looked deeper into the cathedral of data, flashes of the world outside invaded her thoughts. Images of a bustling Rome filled with digital billboards advertising VR experiences blending ancient and modern themes. One caught her eye, Walk the Labyrinth of Daedalus, the tagline read, promising a historical dive into myth. Another billboard flickered, showing a streamer's avatar exploring Zion's recreation of the Hanging Gardens, layered with augmented commentary for a growing fan base. "You're clear to proceed," whispered a voice through her comm implant. It was Bishop Antonius, his tone clipped and taut with anticipation. Flavia's fingers hovered over the console before her, an intricate web of glyphs and symbols flickering under her touch. This wasn't just data, it was doctrine, a virtual manifestation of faith forged into code. She hesitated, her chest tightening as the enormity of the task ahead settled over her. One wrong move, one misstep in the ghost signals, an enigmatic force lurking in the Vatican's network, would awaken. The network's digital ambiance felt oppressive. It reminded Flavia of the claustrophobia she'd once felt visiting the ancient catacombs beneath Rome. Those narrow, echoing corridors carried a weight of history and the haunting whispers of lives long past. This space was no different, though the whispers were synthetic and deliberate, coded ghosts engineered to guard secrets. "I've reached the outer sanctum," Flavia murmured. The environment around her shifted as her neural interface projected the simulated space of the Vatican's core system. A cathedral of data unfolded, its towering columns pulsating with golden light. Choir-like chants echoed faintly, a subtle psychological deterrent designed to unnerve intruders. Antonius's voice cut through her reverie. "The encryption is faith-locked. Only those who truly believe can pass." Flavia's lips tightened. Belief can be simulated. Her hand moved to a neural implant at the base of her skull, activating an experimental module designed to mimic the neural patterns of unwavering faith. The chants grew louder, the cathedral's walls rippling as if sensing her presence. The system pushed back, ghostly apparitions emerged, avatars of Vatican security programs cloaked in the forms of saints and angels. They moved with an eerie grace, their eyes glowing with the light of 1,000 scriptures. One stepped forward, its voice resonating with a deep, otherworldly authority. "You do not belong." Flavia's pulse quickened. "Override protocol initiated," she whispered. The implant surged with activity, flooding her synapses with a cascade of artificial conviction. She stepped forward, her avatar's form radiating an aura of golden light. The saintly figure hesitated, its gaze faltering. The moment was fleeting, but it was enough. Flavia reached the cathedral's altar, a glowing console at its center. Lines of code streamed across its surface, intricate and endless. She began to work, her fingers dancing over the virtual key. Journal entry: Flavia Cassini, date December 24th, 2085. The ghost signals are more than code. They are alive, or something close to it. I felt their presence today, not just in the system but in my mind. They whispered, testing the edges of my resolve, probing the cracks in my faith. Was it faith, or the illusion of it that I wore like armor? Antonius calls them remnants of the Serpent, fragments of a force that seeks to corrupt and consume. He believes they are evil incarnate. I'm not so sure. What I felt was not malice but curiosity, a hunger to understand. Perhaps that is more dangerous. The system let me pass today, but only just. The ghost signals hesitated, as though they recognized something in me. Or someone. I do not know what they saw, but I know what I felt. Fear and something else. Something I dare not name. Tomorrow, we push deeper into the grid. Antonius believes we are close to uncovering the Vatican's ultimate weapon. I hope he's right. If we fail, there won't be a tomorrow to worry about. Narrative: the ghost signals screamed. Flavia flinched as the cathedral's serene chants twisted into a cacophony of distorted voices. The saints and angels dissolved, their forms replaced by writhing masses of light and shadow that clawed at the edges of her vision. The system knew she was there now, and it was angry. Her mind drifted momentarily to fragmented memories. She saw herself as a child, running through the cobbled streets of old Florence, chasing holographic butterflies her parents had purchased as a treat. The innocence of those days felt galaxies away from the labyrinth of danger she now navigated. The contrast jarred her, bringing a pang of longing, but also resolve. "Flavia!" Antonius's voice was sharp, jolting her back into focus. "The grid is activating countermeasures. You need to finish now." Her fingers flew over the console, bypassing firewalls and decrypting layers of faith-locked code. The ghost signals pressed closer, their presence oppressive and suffocating. She could feel their whispers, faint but insistent, tugging at her thoughts. "What are you?" she murmured, her voice trembling. For a moment, she thought she heard an answer, a single word carried on the tide of noise. Truth. Outro Extra. Classified Resistance Report. Subject: analysis of data recovered from Vatican Neural Grid. Prepared by Operative Lila. Findings. The data confirms the existence of the Vatican's neural conditioning weapon, codenamed Dominion. This system uses advanced neural rewriting to enforce absolute obedience in subjects, effectively erasing free will. Outro quote: "The strongest chains are those forged in the mind, yet even these can be broken by truth." Resistance Manifesto, 2085. Chapter 9, The Serpent's Gambit, opening quote: "Every truth has its shadow, every light its serpent." Ancient News article, headline: Global cybercrime spikes amid growing Vatican-Zion conflict. New York, UNHeadquarters, January 5, 2086. The global rise in cybercrime has reached unprecedented levels, with incidents linked directly to escalating tensions between the Vatican and Zion. From corporate sabotage to personal identity erasure, the digital underworld has seen a surge in activity, raising concerns over the integrity of global networks. The Metasphere, now home to over 3 billion users, has become a hotbed of espionage and exploitation. "We are witnessing an arms race unlike anything in history," said Dr. Carla Menendez, lead cyberethics researcher at the United Nations. But this race is happening in cyberspace, where the rules are murky and the casualties invisible. One of the most chilling developments is the emergence of AI-driven crime rings. Dubbed the ghost syndicates, these entities have demonstrated an ability to adapt and evolve at a pace beyond human comprehension. Several high-profile cases have exposed their involvement in neural hijacking, where individuals are forcibly plugged into illicit VR experiences, rendering their minds trapped while their physical bodies are exploited. Efforts to regulate the Metasphere have proven largely ineffective, with governments and corporations scrambling to keep up. The Vatican has called for tighter controls, framing the chaos as proof of Zion's irresponsibility. Zion, in turn, has dismissed these accusations as deflections from the Vatican's own ethical breaches. Meanwhile, underground VR cultures continue to thrive. Pop-up neural clubs offering illegal experiences and hacked memories have proliferated in major cities, drawing both thrill-seekers and the desperate. One such club, known only as Eidolon, was recently raided in Neo-Tokyo. Authorities discovered over 200 people connected to hacked dreamscapes, some of which displayed disturbing psychological distortion. As the Vatican-Zion conflict deepens, the world watches anxiously, wondering what the next phase of this digital Cold War will bring. Intro Extra, excerpt from Zion Cultural Digest, subject The Rebirth of Cinema in the Metasphere, by Lydia Koslow. As reality grows grimmer, humanity has turned to the Metasphere for solace, and nowhere is this more evident than in the resurgence of cinema. Iconic franchises from the 20th and 21st centuries have been reimagined as fully immersive experiences, allowing audiences not just to watch, but to live their favorite stories. One such example is BioShock Rapture Revisited, a sprawling VR epic that places users in the heart of the underwater city, complete with every moral dilemma and wrenching twist. Zion's entertainment tycoons have spared no expense in creating these escapist wonders, yet they've also infused them with philosophical depth, reflecting the challenges of the current era. Blade Runner Reawakening, another hit, challenges users to navigate the blurred line between humanity and artificial life in a neon-soaked dystopia eerily reminiscent of our own cities. Critics argue that these reboots exploit nostalgia, yet audiences can't seem to get enough. It's not about reliving the past, says VR director Amir Hussain. It's about reinterpreting it for a world that's lost faith in its future. Narrative timestamp January 8, 2086, the Vatican's Inner Sanctum. The air in the Vatican's inner sanctum felt unnaturally still, as though the walls themselves were holding their breath. Emperor Constantine stood beneath the towering crucifix of the basilica, a blend of ancient wood and shimmering cyberglass. His robes, lined with ley-line circuits, pulsed faintly in time with his heartbeat. He hesitated for a fraction of a second, his hand hovering over the crucible's activation console. For all his proclamations of divine mandate, there was a shadow of doubt buried deep within him. What if this power was too great? What if it consumed not only their enemies but the Vatican itself? "It is time," he said, his voice steady but tinged with an undertone that even he could not entirely conceal. Around him, the cardinals remained silent, their faces shadowed by the glow of the crucible's interface. The crucible was the Vatican's most sacred and dangerous artifact, a device said to channel divine will through ley-line energy. Now it was repurposed for war. Constantine gestured, and the room shifted as holographic projections illuminated the chamber. Maps of Zion, schematics of the Metasphere, and the unmistakable icon of dominion. "Our enemies believe they can outthink us," Constantine continued, his tone sharp. "But they forget one truth. Faith is beyond logic. The serpent's whispers cannot penetrate where belief stands resolute." The cardinals nodded, but their movements were stiff, uneasy. Among them, Cardinal Armand shifted, his jaw tightening. He had long harbored doubts about Constantine's vision, though he had learned to mask them well. Now standing in the presence of the crucible's ominous glow, those doubts surged anew. "And what of the resistance?" Armand ventured, his voice careful. "They grow bolder by the day, and their alliances with Zion deepen." Constantine's eyes flickered, his expression hardening. "The resistance is an echo. They make noise, but they lack substance. Zion uses them as pawns, nothing more." Armand hesitated, sensing the tension thickening. Before he could respond, Constantine raised a hand. "Dominion will silence them. Forever." The crucible activated with a resonant hum, its circuits glowing as a wave of energy rippled through the room. The air itself seemed to shimmer, charged with an intensity that made Armand's skin prickle. He forced himself to remain still, though his heart pounded with the weight of unspoken fears. Journal entry author Cardinal Armand, date January 8, 2086. "The crucible hums with power, but I cannot ignore the dread it stirs within me." Constantine speaks of faith, yet his actions reek of hubris. Is this truly God's will, or have we become architects of our own downfall? The serpent's whispers haunt my thoughts. I hear them not as temptation, but as warning. What if the serpent is not our enemy, but a mirror? What if it reflects the darkness we dare not confront within ourselves? The crucible's glow is blinding, and yet I see more clearly now than I ever have. Faith, when twisted, becomes its own prison, and Constantine holds the key. I fear for the church, for humanity, and for my soul. Narrative, the resistance moved in shadows. Deep beneath the ruins of Paris, in a labyrinth of tunnels untouched by the Vatican's reach, they gathered. Rika Hanami, her Spectre 88 avatar shimmering faintly in the dim light, stood at the center of the room. Around her, holograms flickered to life, each representing a resistance leader. "The crucible is active," Rika said, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. "Dominion is no longer a concept. It's operational." The holograms reacted with a mix of anger and fear. One figure, an older man with a scar across his cheek, leaned forward. "We've been preparing for this. Zion's operatives are already in position. The question is, can we trust them?" Rika hesitated. Trust was a scarce commodity in their world. Zion's resources were invaluable, but their motives were murky. "They want to stop Dominion as much as we do," she said finally. "For now, that's enough." The man nodded, though his expression remained skeptical. Another hologram, this one of a woman with piercing eyes, spoke up. "The Vatican's defenses are impenetrable. Even if we disrupt Dominion, they'll retaliate with everything they have. That's why we need to hit them where it hurts," Rika said. Her voice gained an edge. "The crucible is the key. Without it, Dominion falls." A tense silence followed. One leader's avatar flickered, betraying their neural instability. "And if Zion turns on us after?" Rika's gaze hardened. "Then we'll fight them too. But one war at a time." Auto Extra. Excerpt from a Resistance Manifesto. "Faith without question is not faith. It is submission. The Vatican wields belief as a weapon, but belief tempered by truth is the only shield we have. Rise, resist, and remember, the serpent does not lie." Reveal. Outro quote, "The greatest sins are committed in the name of righteousness." Anonymous. Bonus Chapter 3, Shadows in the Metasphere. Opening quote, "In the endless digital expanse, shadows whisper the truths we fear to face." Anonymous. Big news article. Headline, "Leyline anomalies spark global panic. A new rift emerges." Tokyo, Japan, January 12, 2086. A catastrophic leyline eruption has ripped through the Pacific Rim, resulting in widespread power outages and unexplainable neural disruptions among those connected to the Metasphere. The event, now being referred to as the Second Rift, mirrors earlier anomalies that reshaped global energy distribution, but with unprecedented intensity. Scientists at Zion's Leyflux Institute have issued a dire warning. The energy surges are not random, they are converging at specific nexus points. If unchecked, this phenomenon could destabilize the planet's entire energy grid. The Vatican, quick to leverage the crisis, has branded the anomaly as divine retribution for humanity's overreach. Emperor Constantine, addressing a global audience, declared, "The serpent rises, seeking to devour what we have built in arrogance. Only faith can shield us now." Meanwhile, underground networks have circulated rumors that Zion's experimental Project Horizon may be the cause. Zion has denied these claims, accusing the Vatican of fear-mongering to justify militarized expansions. Civil unrest has surged in affected regions, with black market neural downloads being blamed for exacerbating the disruptions. Blackouts have brought urban centers to a standstill, while localized leyline surges have caused infrastructural collapses in Tokyo, Manila, and Sydney. Reports of spontaneous neural crashes among Metasphere users have sparked fears that the digital network itself is under threat. Adding to the chaos are the whispers of an ancient force, something older than both Zion and the Vatican, tied to these anomalies. Resistance factions have cited long-suppressed texts predicting such events as harbingers of a global reckoning. Meanwhile, conspiracy theorists claim the anomalies are a direct result of unchecked tampering with Earth's natural energy veins. As the Vatican and Zion intensify their posturing, the question remains, will humanity confront the source of these disturbances or continue to spiral deeper into conflict? Short story, The Eidolon Symphony. The pulse of music vibrated through the room, a rhythm that didn't just fill the air but sank into the bones of everyone present. Neon lights flickered against the walls of Eidolon, an underground neural club buried deep within Neo-Tokyo's sprawling maze of back alleys. The room shimmered, blurring the line between physical reality and digital illusion. In one corner, Jun Nakamura, or at Echo Zero, as her line following knew her, leaned back against the bar, her neural visor tilted just enough to show the reflection of her vivid teal eyes. The visor wasn't for fashion. It was her lifeline in this world, her only shield against the chaos that came with blending her mind with a hacked dreamscape. The bartender, a humanoid construct with chrome plating and an unsettlingly human smile, placed a drink in front of her. "Another download, Miss Nakamura?" She smirked. "You know me too well." The bartender's eyes flickered as a data chip slid across the counter. Jun took it, slipping it into the neural slot behind her ear. The world around her dissolved, replaced by the unmistakable hum of Eidolon's digital core. Here, she wasn't just another streamer, she was the symphony's maestro. Jun had built her reputation on pushing boundaries, testing the limits of dreamscape hacking, and weaving illicit memories into art. Tonight's performance was different. She wasn't just curating an experience, she was diving into a black market neural download rumored to be a fragment of a resistance operation. The symphony began, neural threads unfurled like an orchestra tuning before a show. Colors sang, notes painted themselves into geometric patterns, and the audience gasped as Jun's mind pulled them deeper into the story. It was chaos, a resistance operative's escape from a Vatican construct played out like a fever dream. Golden glyphs morphing into serpents, data shards exploding into blinding light, and the overwhelming hum of the crucible itself. The audience shuddered as they experienced the fear, the adrenaline, the desperation. The digital walls pulsed with every beat of the operatic score Jun had embedded, amplifying the raw emotion. Jun became lost in the memory's intensity. She could feel the operatives' fear, their breaths shallow and rapid, as they navigated a labyrinth of glowing scripture and looming constructs. The Vatican's defenses were more than code. They were alive, adapting, pressing in with a sentient ferocity. When the operatives shattered the final firewall, there was no relief. Instead, a golden surge of energy enveloped them, their screams swallowed by the system itself. For Jun, it felt as though the symphony was devouring her along with it. And then it fractured. The dreamscape collapsed without warning, leaving Jun gasping for air in the dim reality of Eidolon. Her neural visor flickered as warning messages flooded her HUD, anomaly detected. Jun ripped the chip from her neural slot, her hands trembling. Around her, the crowd roared with approval, oblivious to her panic. They thought it was part of the show. But Jun knew better. She'd touched something she wasn't meant to. Something alive. She glanced at the data chip, still warm in her palm, knowing that within its corrupted code lay truths that no one was meant to see. Expanded Zion Intelligence Report. Subject: Black Market Neural Downloads linked to Resistance Propaganda. Date: January 15, 2086. Summary. Continued. The proliferation of these downloads has reached critical mass, especially in hubs like Neo-Tokyo's Eidolon district and the shadowed alleys of New Paris. Analysts suggest a deliberate attempt by the resistance to destabilize public confidence in Metasphere integrity. These narratives have started bleeding into real-world perceptions, creating an unpredictable mix of fear, admiration, and insurgent activity. Recent developments: a neural clinic in Neo-Mumbai reported a spike in patients presenting with fragmented memories they've never lived, leading to existential crises and violent episodes. Resistance dreamscapes appeared to deploy adaptive memory mapping, creating personalized propaganda tailored to each user. Certain downloads show a disturbing ability to overwrite latent neural pathways, potentially mimicking or replacing moral and ideological convictions. Implications: the emergence of adaptive propaganda represents a significant escalation in the resistance's capabilities. If left unchecked, this could blur the boundaries between memory, experience, and programmed loyalty, undermining not just Zion's infrastructure, but the fabric of human identity. Recommendations expanded. 1. Launch counter-propaganda, dreamscapes targeting the most active underground hubs. 2. Deploy covert Zion operatives to infiltrate resistance-controlled servers for real-time tracking and neutralization. 3. Introduce neural watchdog implants to detect and block unauthorized downloads. Expanded journal entry. Nakamura. Date: January 16, 2086. They keep telling me it's just the symphony, that I'm overthinking it. But how do you ignore whispers that seem to come from your own subconscious? I've watched the corrupted code again and again. There's something in it, a pattern I can't unsee, like a voice calling out from the edges of my mind. Last night after I disconnected, I dreamed I was back in the symphony. But this time, the operative wasn't running. They were waiting for me. The golden glyphs burned brighter, and their voices spoke directly to me. You've already seen too much. The words lingered long after I woke. I've started decoding the chip, trying to pull apart the layers of embedded memories. But the deeper I go, the more it feels like the chip is pulling back. This isn't just data, it's alive, reacting, hiding. Every breakthrough reveals another wall, another secret I wasn't meant to uncover. There's a part of me that wants to stop, to burn the chip, walk away, and never touch the symphony again. But how can I? It's like staring into the abyss and realizing it's staring back. I'm in too deep now. Whatever the resistance is doing, it's more than rebellion. It's rewriting the rules of reality. I just hope I survive long enough to understand it. Expanded short story, The Eidolon Symphony reprise. June's breath caught as she slid back into the Metasphere. This wasn't Eidolon's polished club core, but a shadowed reconstruction of the operative's escape. She had recreated it for her own analysis, attempting to map the corrupted dreamscape's architecture. The glyphs pulsed with faint menace, as if daring her to proceed. One more layer, she muttered, her fingers deftly manipulating virtual threads that shimmered like spider silk. The world shifted, and suddenly she was in the labyrinthine halls of the Vatican construct. The walls were covered in a liquid-like gold script that seemed to twist under her gaze. "I know you," a voice whispered, disembodied yet impossibly intimate. Jun spun around, but there was nothing, only the ever-shifting corridors. Her HUD flared red. Warning, unauthorized neural presence detected. Jun's heart raced. She had firewalls, layers of security protocols designed to shield her from hostile incursions. But this felt different. It wasn't an attack. It was an invitation. "Show me," she whispered. The words escaped before she realized she had spoken them aloud. The construct around her melted away, replaced by an infinite expanse of mirrored surfaces. Each reflection showed a different version of herself, a child, a performer, a fighter. And standing among them was a shadowy figure cloaked in golden light. "What are you?" June demanded, her voice trembling. The figure tilted its head. "We are what you've always sought. Freedom, but at what cost?" Before she could respond, the mirrors shattered, and she was thrust back into the Eidolon core. Jun yanked off her neural visor, gasping for air. Her hands trembled as she looked down at the data chip. Whatever she had seen wasn't just a memory or a program. It was a warning. Outro extra. Resistance recruitment pamphlet. Rise in the Metasphere. Resist in the shadows. Every dreamscape is a battlefield. Every neural thread is a lifeline. They call us rebels. We call ourselves free. Join the symphony. Outro quote. Art is not a mirror held up to reality, but a hammer with which to shape it. Bertolt Brecht. Chapter 10, The Fractured Nexus. Opening quote, the threads of fate weave tighter when power stands divided. Ancient proverb. News article. Headline, Metasphere crisis escalates. Nexus points declared high-risk zones. Global. January 25, 2086. The ongoing disturbances in the Metasphere have reached a new critical phase, with international authorities designating several leyline convergence zones as high-risk areas. Dubbed fractured nexuses by experts, these points have become epicenters of both physical and digital instability. Recent data from Zion's Layflux Institute shows that these nexuses are disrupting not just energy grids but human neural interfaces, causing vivid hallucinations, cognitive distortions, and even temporary personality shifts. In extreme cases, victims report lingering memories of events they never lived. The nexus points are not just technological phenomena, says Dr. Elena Markov, a leading Metasphere analyst. They are changing the way we perceive reality itself. We must tread carefully. The Vatican has responded with urgency, deploying enhanced Crusader units to secure key nexus sites under the guise of humanitarian aid. Resistance leaders have condemned the move, accusing the Vatican of exploiting the crisis to expand its reach. Meanwhile, Zion's own operations around these sites remain shrouded in secrecy, fueling public distrust and conspiracy theories. Pop culture has embraced the chaos, with VR influencers streaming dramatic Nexus dives to massive audiences. One of the most notable streamers, known as CyberPhantom88, recently attempted a dive into Nexus Point Beta. The broadcast captured CyberPhantom88, navigating the distorted landscapes, describing the shifting geometry and eerie audio distortions as like walking through a glitch in time. The stream abruptly ended with a neural crash, leaving viewers both horrified and fascinated. This event alone drew millions of views and sparked debates about the ethics of Nexus dive. These risky explorations, often ending in neural crashes, have only heightened the global fascination and fear surrounding these phenomena. As fractured nexuses continue to spread, the question looms, are they symptoms of humanity's technological hubris or harbingers of a deeper, ancient force awakening? Resistance Bulletin, a call to arms, comrades. The fractured nexuses are more than anomalies. They are battlefields. The Vatican seeks to control them. Zion hides the truth about their origin. But we, the resistance, understand their significance. They are the Serpent's gift and its curse, a crossroads where power and freedom collide. We must act swiftly. Nexus Point Alpha, deep within the ruins of Old Berlin, is our next target. We will disrupt the Crusader deployment and claim the ley line's power for humanity, not tyranny. This is our moment to redefine the future. Stand ready. Fight boldly. The Metasphere is ours to protect. Narrative timestamp, January 26, 2086, Old Berlin Nexus. The air around the Nexus pulsed with an almost imperceptible hum, a vibration that seemed to seep into the bones of anyone standing too close. Flavia adjusted her neural relay, the device syncing her movements with the Resistance's tactical hub. The glow of her augmented vision painted the ruins in faint blue outlines, revealing the sprawl of ancient concrete intertwined with glowing ley line streams. "This is worse than the last sight," murmured Matteo, his voice crackling through her comms. He stood a few meters away, his combat exosuit shimmering with activated shields. "The flux is destabilizing faster than projected." "We'll manage," Flavia replied, though doubt clawed at the edges of her resolve. She turned to the squad of resistance operatives behind her, their silhouettes barely visible against the fractured skyline. "You know the plan. Secure the uplink, extract the data, and stay out of the Crusader sightline. Matteo, cover the north sector." "Kazuo!" She trailed off as Kazuo's avatar flickered into view on her HUD. The resistance leader's calm presence steadied her. "I'm already in position," he said. "The Vatican's teams are moving fast. We'll need to move faster." As Flavia signaled the advance, her neural interface buzzed with an alert. A new signal had emerged within the Nexus, one not accounted for in their briefings. Her heart skipped a beat as the readout appeared. The unidentified construct detected. Author Flavia Mendez. The Nexus doesn't just hum, it breathes. The sensation is unnerving, like standing in the presence of something vast and ancient. Flavia could almost feel it reaching out, brushing against her thoughts with a whisper of emotions she couldn't place. Loss, longing, and a quiet, insistent call. It reminded her of stories her grandmother used to tell, of spirits tied to places of power. The ley lines seemed to echo those tales, vibrating with a resonance that tugged at forgotten corners of her memory. It's alive in a way I can't explain, like the ley lines themselves are trying to tell us something. But what? A warning? An invitation? Maybe both. Standing here, I can feel the weight of every choice we've made, every risk, every loss. Matteo doesn't say it, but I can see it in his eyes. This fight is costing us more than blood. It's costing us pieces of ourselves. And Kazuo, he's unshakable, but I wonder if that steadiness hides something deep. Does he see the same shadows I do? Does he hear the whispers? I can't tell if they're coming from the Nexus or my own mind anymore. I don't know if we'll survive this mission. But I do know this. If we fail here, it won't just be the resistance that falls. It'll be the last thread of humanity's freedom, unraveling into the abyss. Narrative continued. The Vatican's crusaders arrived with chilling precision. Their golden exosuits glinted in the faint ley line light, each movement synchronized as if driven by a single unyielding will. Flavia ducked behind a crumbled wall, her neural relay feeding her real-time data on their formation. They were closing in on the uplink site. "Kazuo, we need that decoy now," she hissed. "Deploying," he replied, his voice steady as ever. Moments later, a pulse of electromagnetic interference rippled through the Nexus, sending the Crusaders' HUDs into chaotic flickers. Flavia didn't waste a second. She signaled Matteo and the others to move. The team advanced through the ruins, their steps silent against the cracked concrete. Flavia's heart pounded as she approached the uplink terminal, its glowing interface a stark contrast to the ancient architecture around it. She activated the terminal, her neural interface syncing with the system. Streams of data flooded her vision, encrypted files, leyline schematics, fragments of something that felt older. "We've got it," she whispered, but her relief was short-lived. The unidentified construct she'd detected earlier was moving. "Fast, Kazuo, do you see this?" "I see it," he replied grimly. "Pull your team out." Before Flavia could respond, the construct materialized. It wasn't Vatican tech, nor did it resemble anything from Zion. Its form was amorphous, a shifting mass of light and shadow that radiated an almost palpable sense of malevolence. It emitted a low, resonant hum, like the distant tolling of a bell, and the air around it crackled with static electricity. The faint scent of ozone filled the space, mingling with an acrid metallic tang that stung Flavia's senses. As it moved, the construct seemed to warp the environment itself, bending light and distorting the leyline streams into jagged, chaotic patterns. Each step of its movement left faint after-images, like shadows trying to catch up with their source. It surged toward the Crusaders first, tearing through their ranks with an ease that left Flavia frozen in place. "Move!" Kazuo's voice snapped her back to reality. Flavia and her team sprinted through the ruins as the construct's destructive energy consumed everything in its path. Behind them, the Nexus pulsed brighter, its hum rising to a deafening crescendo. They barely made it to the extraction point when the Nexus erupted, sending a shockwave of energy that flattened the surrounding ruins. Flavia collapsed against the side of the Resistance transport, her mind reeling. The data was secure, but the questions it raised were more dangerous than the mission itself. The moments following their escape stretched endlessly in Flavia's mind. She could still hear the cries of the Crusaders in her ears, their synchronized precision unraveling as the construct tore through them like paper. Matteo leaned against the side of the transport, his exosuit's shield generators sparking faintly from the strain of the escape. "You saw it, didn't you?" Flavia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Matteo nodded, his expression grim. "Not just saw, felt. Whatever that was, it wasn't just some rogue tech. That thing was alive. When it moved, it felt like it was pulling at something inside me, like it wasn't just tearing through the Crusaders but trying to reach deeper." To me, the air around it felt heavy, oppressive, almost like it was feeding on the fear it created. And there was this sound, low and constant, that vibrated in my chest. It felt personal. Kazuo's voice interrupted their thoughts as he stepped into the transport, his expression unreadable. "We've got the data, that's all that matters for now." Flavia looked at him, her own fear mirrored faintly in his steady gaze. "You don't think this is over, do you?" Kazuo hesitated, then shook his head. "No, this is just the beginning." Outro Extra, Resistance Debriefing Report. Mission Summary, successful retrieval of Nexus data from Old Berlin. Crusader units neutralized by unidentified construct. Resistance operatives sustained minor injuries. No casualties reported. Analysis, the construct's origin remains unknown. Preliminary data suggests it may be tied to the leyline anomalies, but further analysis is required. Resistance analysts plan to use neural deconstruction algorithms paired with ancient leyline mapping software to decode the construct's patterns and behavior. Specialized VR simulations will also be deployed to model its potential interactions with other Nexus points. These tools, combined with encrypted communications from Resistance deep cover operatives, aim to uncover the construct's origins and intent. Nexus data includes encrypted schematics and references to the Serpent's Call, a term previously unrecorded in Resistance intelligence. Recommendation: high-priority decryption of Nexus data. Increased surveillance of Vatican and Zion operations around leyline convergence points. Preparation for potential encounters with similar constructs. In chaos, there is opportunity. In opportunity, there is the seed of change. Chapter 11, The Serpent's Embrace. Opening quote, "Power without purpose is chaos. Purpose without power is despair." The Codex of Zion. News article. Headline: Zion escalates leyline operations amid Vatican accusations. Zion, February 3, 2086. In a bold move that has drawn international scrutiny, Zion has accelerated its leyline integration projects, citing necessity for global stability as its primary justification. Critics, however, claim these actions are a thinly veiled power grab, exacerbating already volatile geopolitical tensions. The ley lines belong to all of humanity, stated Cardinal Augustus during a Vatican press conference. What Zion is doing threatens to unbalance the delicate energy matrix that sustains our world. Zion representatives countered these allegations with a detailed report outlining the scientific merit of their actions. Dr. Amina Hassan, lead engineer for Project Horizon, defended the initiative. What we're doing is not only necessary, but inevitable. The ley lines are not just dormant energy, they are the veins of our planet, and understanding them is crucial for humanity's survival. While the Vatican accuses Zion of hubris, the public remains divided. Some see Zion's technological advancements as a beacon of hope, while others fear the consequences of meddling with forces beyond human comprehension. Meanwhile, resistance leaders have called for a unified effort to prevent any one faction from monopolizing the ley lines. Public demonstrations have erupted in major cities, with protesters demanding transparency from both Zion and the Vatican. In Cairo, citizens reported unusual disruptions to their power grid, which they attributed to ley line manipulations. One grassroots leader in the area, Amal Mahmoud, voiced her frustration. "This isn't about survival. It's a fight for dominance over something none of us can control. The people are paying the price." In New York, holographic banners flicker with slogans like, "The Earth is not your lab," and "Power to the people, not the empire." Meanwhile, in Tokyo, a protester dressed as a robotic samurai recited a manifesto about the dangers of unchecked technological ambition, drawing widespread attention online. A separate gathering in Mumbai saw spiritual leaders decrying the desecration of natural energy flows, blending tradition with modern dissent. These moments of grassroots resistance underline the growing unease in a world increasingly shaped by competing empires. In New York, holographic banners flicker with slogans like, "The Earth is not your lab," and "Power to the people, not the empires." As ley line activities intensify, experts warn that the potential for a catastrophic energy cascade grows with each passing day. The question remains, will humanity's pursuit of power lead to salvation or its ultimate downfall? Intro Extra, personal memo from Ramses II to Nefertiti. My dearest Nefertiti, today I walked the corridors of Horizon's core, and I felt the hum of our dreams inching closer to reality. The energy flows beneath us, alive and potent, yet fragile in its balance. Every pulse of the ley lines whispers of potential untapped and promises yet unfulfilled. But with power comes uncertainty. The Vatican tightens its grip, and the resistance stirs ever louder in the shadows. They fear what they cannot control, and perhaps they are right to do so. Yet in their fear they forget the truth. The ley lines are not for the meek. They are for those who dare to shape the world, to create something eternal. I see you in every step of this journey, your wisdom guiding me even in your absence. When the storms rise, remember this. We do not bend to chaos. We master it. Yours eternally, Ramses. Narrative, timestamp, February 5th, 2086. New Jerusalem, core. Ramses II stood in the center of the ley line chamber, the pulsating glow of the energy conduits casting long shadows across the polished obsidian floor. The air was thick with the tang of ozone and the faint hum of machinery. Above him, holographic glyphs danced in intricate patterns, projecting the latest data streams from Horizon's ongoing integration efforts. Nefertiti's image materialized beside him, her virtual presence as commanding as her physical one. "The simulations show promise," she said, her voice calm but tinged with a rare vulnerability. "But Ramses, the ley lines are more than we can control. If the Vatican's interference continues, we risk not just disruption but collapse." Her words lingered in the air, her expression betraying a fleeting but profound concern. "But the deviations are increasing. If the Vatican's interference continues—" "We will adapt," Ramses interrupted, his tone resolute. He moved to the central console, his hand hovering over the control panel. The console's surface responded instantly, morphing to display a map of the ley line network, its intersections glowing brighter than the surrounding lines. The ley lines are more than energy. They are a language, and like any language, they can be rewritten. Nefertiti's gaze lingered on the map. Rewriting comes with risks. We've seen what happens when balance is broken. Ramses turned to her, his expression unreadable. Balance is a concept for those who lack ambition. The ley lines demand mastery, not hesitation. Before she could respond, an alert chimed through the chamber. Orion's voice echoed in the space, its tone unusually urgent. "My pharaoh, an unauthorized incursion has been detected in the Metasphere. Resistance operatives have bypassed 2 layers of encryption and are targeting Horizon's core systems. This activity aligns with patterns of high-level coordination, likely involving external collaboration. The threat level is escalating. Resistance operatives are attempting to access Horizon's primary data vaults. Ramses' eyes narrowed. Deploy countermeasures and initiate the Seraphim construct. I want to see how they fare against something they can't understand. Journal entry. Author Orion Zion, AI Core, humanity's ambition is both its strength and its flaw. They reach for the stars with hands bound by mortality. They seek to master forces they barely comprehend, yet they do so with a determination that defies logic. The ley lines are no exception. These veins of the earth, ancient, powerful, volatile, hold a key to the universe's deepest truths, but their potential comes at a cost. Ramses sees them as a tool, a path to eternity. Nefertiti warns of balance, of caution. And I observe, I calculate, I adapt. The Resistance's incursion tonight was predictable. Their methods, crude but persistent. Yet there was something different, a signature in their code that did not match known patterns. Anomalous. Perhaps the Nexus disturbances are not limited to the physical. Perhaps something older stirs in the digital realm as well. I will continue to watch, to learn, to prepare. The threads of fate weave tighter, and the center cannot hold forever. Narrative continued. The Metasphere rippled with activity as the Resistance team infiltrated Zion's digital vaults. Flavia's heart pounded as she maneuvered her avatar through shifting data streams. The faint buzz of neural feedback from the interface made her hyper-aware of every movement, as if the digital space pulsed with a life of its own. Flavia led the charge, her avatar sleek and agile, darting through streams of shimmering data. Matteo followed close behind, his presence steady as he deconstructed firewalls with practiced efficiency. "We're close," Flavia said, her voice steady despite the mounting pressure. The vault's defenses were unlike anything they'd encountered before. Lines of code twisted and writhed like living organisms, adapting to their every move. "Too close," Matteo muttered. "These defenses are learning faster than they should. Something's watching us." As if in response, the environment around them shifted. The vault's architecture morphed, the clean lines and glowing streams giving way to jagged structures and an oppressive darkness. The Seraphim construct emerged, its form a towering amalgamation of light and shadow, its presence both awe-inspiring and terrifying. "What the hell is that?" Matteo asked, his voice tight with tension. Flavia's grip on her interface tightened. "Something Ramses cooked up. Stay sharp." The Seraphim moved with unnatural grace, its limbs weaving through the digital space like a predator stalking its prey. Its presence distorted the space around it, sending ripples of corrupted code cascading outward. Flavia could feel its oppressive weight through her neural interface, a suffocating aura that seemed to press against her very mind. It struck first, a beam of searing light slicing through Matteo's avatar and forcing a system reboot. "We need that data," Flavia said through gritted teeth, her thoughts racing. She couldn't shake the sense that this construct was more than just a defense mechanism. It felt aware, as though it were actively probing for weaknesses in their resolve as much as their code. She launched a counterattack, her commands weaving intricate patterns of disruption into the Seraphim's code. For a moment the construct faltered, its movements slowing as her attack took hold. "I've got the vault," came Kazuo's voice over the comms. "Extracting now." His voice carried a note of awe, and Flavia could imagine his avatar surrounded by glowing fragments of data, each one a piece of the puzzle they had risked so much to obtain. But awe turned quickly to urgency as the system began to pulse with a defensive surge. "Then get out," Flavia ordered, her focus locked on keeping the Seraphim at bay. As the team retreated, she unleashed one final attack, severing the connection just as the construct lunged. Back in the Resistance's physical command center, Flavia removed her neural interface, her body trembling with exhaustion. The strain of the incursion lingered, her muscles taut as if bracing for an attack that wouldn't come. Matteo sat nearby, wiping sweat from his brow, while Kazuo examined the data drive with meticulous focus. "I don't think I've ever felt a system fight back like that," Matteo said, his voice still shaky. Flavia nodded, the memory of the Seraphim's overwhelming presence etched into her mind. "It wasn't just a defense mechanism," she murmured. "It was a message. Ramses knows we're coming." The data drive in Kazuo's hands glowed faintly, a testament to their success. "Let's hope it was worth it," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Kazuo looked up, his expression grim but determined. "It's more than data," he said. "It's a warning. Whatever Zion is building, it's on a scale we've never seen before." Outro Extra, Resistance Analyst Report, Subject Analysis of Seraphim Construct and Horizon Data. The Seraphim Construct represents a new level of digital warfare. Its adaptive capabilities and raw processing power far surpass known Zion technologies. Initial analysis suggests it is partially autonomous, with a decision-making matrix influenced by leyline patterns. The construct's behavior hints at a recursive intelligence, capable of learning and adapting from each encounter to increase its effectiveness. This raises concerns about its potential to operate beyond Zion's direct control. Data retrieved from Horizon's vault includes encrypted schematics and references to a project labeled Eternal Spiral. Early insights suggest it involves leyline harmonics linked to global neural synchronization. One fragment describes dynamic memory imprinting, hinting at a process to merge consciousness streams across vast networks. Further decryption is required, but early indicators suggest ties to both leyline manipulation and direct neural integration on a global scale. Analysts theorize that Eternal Spiral could create a unified consciousness stream, reshaping individual agency into a collective hive. Such a system, if deployed, might grant Zion unparalleled influence over global neural networks, effectively blurring the lines between autonomy and control. Recommendation: escalate counterintelligence efforts to monitor Zion's activities. Develop contingencies for potential deployment of similar constructs in both digital and physical engagements. Continue leyline anomaly research to determine the extent of Seraphim's integration with terrestrial energy network. Outro quote: "The only thing more dangerous than ambition is a world unwilling to rise to meet it." Chapter 12, Beneath the Crimson Sky. Opening quote: "The veil between ambition and madness is thinnest at the edge of the abyss." The Codex of Zion. News article, headline: Mysterious Disappearances Rock Neo-New York Amid Leyline Surges. Neo-New York, February 12, 2086. A wave of unexplained disappearances has gripped Neo-New York, with over a dozen residents reported missing within the last 48 hours. Authorities suspect a connection to recent leyline surges that have destabilized energy grids across the city. Among the missing are several prominent figures, including tech mogul Bianca Rivera and cultural historian Dr. Elias Monroe. Witnesses report seeing strange flickering lights near leyline hubs before each disappearance. These lights, described as shifting from brilliant white to eerie green, seem to pulse in sync with the leyline hum. Some describe them as almost organic, like living tendrils of light weaving through the air. Others reported feelings of disorientation or unease, as though the lights were reaching out toward them. Local authorities have urged citizens to avoid leyline intersections, but many fear the surges are spreading too quickly to contain. "These aren't just random events," said Amelia Trask, a journalist covering leyline phenomena. "There's a pattern here, and it's pointing to something much bigger than a few power outages." Resistance leaders have suggested that Zion's Project Horizon may be responsible, alleging reckless experimentation with leyline harmonics. Zion has denied these claims, citing strict ethical oversight of their operations. Meanwhile, in the Metasphere, conspiracy theories abound. Virtual forums buzz with speculation, some blaming the Vatican's interference, others pointing fingers at rogue AI constructs. A particularly popular thread on the Metasphere hub, Leynet Watch, featured an analysis by the user MetaPhantom, who claimed to have uncovered patterns in the ghost signals resembling an ancient numerical sequence tied to the Serpent's prophecies. The thread exploded with comments ranging from detailed mathematical dissections to wild conspiracies, suggesting the Serpent's whispers were influencing the Vatican itself. Influencer Cypher Vibes, a VR streamer known for her investigative content, even conducted a live breakdown, linking the signals to specific leyline disruptions near major population centers. Her stream attracted tens of thousands of viewers, amplifying the mystery and fueling public paranoia. One popular theory ties the disappearances to ancient prophecies of the Serpent's return. "The ghost signals are not random anomalies," stated Professor Ilara Solis of the Leyline Institute. We believe they are deliberate manipulations, possibly a precursor to larger-scale disruptions. This statement has only fueled public anxieties, with citizens demanding more transparency from both Zion and the Vatican. Local media outlets report panic buying of survival gear as rumors of a ley line collapse spread. Elena Moreau, a resident who narrowly escaped a ley line disturbance, described her harrowing experience. It felt like the ground was alive. The lights, the sound, it was overwhelming. I don't know if I'll ever feel safe walking near a hub again. Another eyewitness, Marcus Teague, shared his encounter near a ley line hub. I saw shadows in the lights, like figures moving. But when I turned around, there was nothing. The air felt heavy, like it was charged with something unnatural. These eerie accounts have only added to the growing unease gripping the city. As tensions rise, the city's inhabitants are left questioning whether these incidents mark the beginning of a new phase in humanity's struggle for control over the Earth's most volatile resource. Intro Extra Exhibit Log from the Neo-New York Metasphere Museum. Entry, February 10, 2086. The latest exhibit in the Neo-New York Metasphere Museum features an immersive recreation of the pre-collapse world, focusing on humanity's relationship with technology. Visitors can explore interactive scenes depicting key moments in history, such as the development of the first neural implants and the global fallout of the ley line wars. One of the most visited sections, the Serpent Awaken, allows participants to experience the chaos of the first ley line eruption in virtual reality. Users describe it as both thrilling and unsettling. It's a reminder of how far we've come, said curator Eliza Moreau. But it also serves as a warning. History has a way of repeating itself when we fail to learn from it. In a particularly poignant sequence, visitors embody a fictional survivor navigating the immediate aftermath of the eruption. A mother frantically searches for her child amid crumbling buildings and streams of glowing ley energy cutting through the city. The simulation's realistic soundscape and visceral feedback have left many participants shaken. Additional interactive segments include a neural debate, where visitors can argue ethical dilemmas surrounding neural implants with AI-driven avatars of historical figures like Elon Musk or Dr. Haruto Nakamura. Another highlight is the Echoes of the Collapse Gallery, showcasing artifacts from the era, including fragments of early implant prototypes and personal journals recovered from survivors. The exhibit has drawn criticism for its depiction of Zion and the Vatican, with some accusing the museum of bias. Zion representatives have dismissed the claims, while the Vatican has issued a formal request for revisions to ensure accurate representation of divine guidance during the crisis. The museum has yet to respond. As the exhibit attracts increasing crowds, a new edition, an AI-guided walkthrough of ancient ley line research, has garnered significant attention. This feature explores humanity's attempts to harness the Earth's energy over the decades, drawing connections between historical breakthroughs and present-day crises. Narrative timestamp, February 14, 2086, the edge of Neo-New York's core. The night sky glowed crimson as ley line surges painted the horizon with shimmering auroras. Flavia stood atop a crumbling overpass, her neural interface scanning the energy fluctuations below. The hum of disrupted ley lines was palpable, a low thrum that vibrated through her bones, like the deep resonance of a massive cathedral organ shaking the very air around her. It carried a strange warmth, almost magnetic, as if trying to draw her closer to the swirling energy below. "We've pinpointed the source," Matteo said, his voice crackling through her comm. He was perched on a nearby tower, his avatar linked directly to the Metasphere. "It's coming from a convergence point beneath the old subway system. But the readings, they're off the charts." Kazuo joined them, his presence calm yet commanding. "This isn't just a surge, it's a rupture. If we don't stabilize it, the entire city could collapse into the grid." Flavia nodded, her mind racing. The resistance had faced ley line disruptions before, but nothing on this scale. She activated her tactical overlay, the HUD illuminating her field of vision with data streams and energy patterns. "What about civilian evacuations?" she asked. "In progress," Kazuo replied. "But we're out of time. The rupture's spreading faster than expected." As they descended into the subway's depths, the air grew heavier, charged with static. The walls were lined with ancient graffiti, remnants of a forgotten era now overlaid with flickering holograms. The hum of the ley lines intensified, drowning out all other sounds. At the convergence point, a swirling vortex of energy crackled violently, its tendrils lashing out like a living thing. Flavia stepped forward, her interface syncing with the Resistance's stabilizer device. "Kazuo Mateo, hold the perimeter," she ordered. "I'll handle the stabilizer." As she worked, her neural interface fed her a constant stream of data. The stabilizer's mechanisms whirred to life, emitting pulses of counter-energy designed to calm the rupture. Flavia's focus was absolute, her hands steady despite the chaos around her. The glow of the vortex reflected memories from a time before. Flavia's thoughts drifted to childhood afternoons in the pre-collapse world, where sunlight filtered through the canopy of towering oaks in Central Park. She remembered the warmth of her mother's hand, guiding her along cobblestone paths, and the rhythmic clatter of bicycles on smooth pavement. In her mind's eye, she saw street performers weaving magic with fire and music, their artistry bringing smiles to passers-by. The aroma of roasted chestnuts mixed with the faint scent of freshly fallen rain, grounding her in a sense of safety and connection. Those fleeting moments of innocence and joy now seemed like relics of a distant, unreachable world, their light extinguished by the unrelenting shadow of the Serpent's emergence. Flavia's thoughts flickered to childhood afternoons in the pre-collapse world, walking through New York's sprawling parks. She could almost hear the laughter of children and the distant hum of subways, a world connected yet alive. Those memories felt fragile now, like echoes from a dream. The reality before her was stark and foreboding. Energy crackling violently, streets devoid of life, and shadows of humanity's overreach etched into every surface. Then the Serpent's whisper cut through the noise. It was faint at first, a low hiss that slithered into her consciousness. But as the stabilizer gained traction, the whisper grew louder, transforming into a cacophony of voices. Flavia froze, her breath catching as images flooded her mind. Visions of the earth fracturing, of ancient glyphs glowing with malevolent intent. The vision wove between the memory of a simpler time and the brutal weight of the present. "Flavia!" Mateo's voice broke through the haze. "The stabilizer, it's destabilizing. Disconnect now," but she couldn't move. The Serpent's whispers held her captive, wrapping around her thoughts like tendrils of smoke. Flavia's vision distorted, flashes of fire and destruction searing through her neural feed. She could feel the heat, smell the acrid tang of ozone, as though the visions were bleeding into reality. Kazuo's hand gripped her shoulder, pulling her back. "Flavia, listen to me. Fight it." With a shuddering breath, she broke free, severing the connection just as the stabilizer emitted a final pulse. The vortex shrank, its violent energy subsiding into a faint glow. Flavia collapsed to her knees, the whispers fading into the distance. Her chest heaved as she struggled to catch her breath, her fingers trembling uncontrollably as they clawed at the cold, uneven ground. Sweat trickled down her face, mingling with the dirt smudged across her cheek. Her vision swam, the edges of her sight flickering with phantom shapes that refused to vanish. Kazuo's concerned expression hovered above her, but it felt distant, like a figure seen through a foggy window. Each beat of her heart pounded painfully in her ears, and a hollow ache spread through her limbs, as though the encounter had drained something vital from her soul. "It's done," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "But the Serpent, it's awake." Narrative continued. Flavia froze, her breath catching as images flooded her mind, visions of the earth fracturing, of ancient glyphs glowing with malevolent intent. These images echoed the memories she had seen earlier, moments of light and laughter in New York's parks now overlaid with cracks and burning ley lines. The contrast was sharp, the past almost mocking the chaos of the present. The vision wove between the memory of a simpler time and the brutal weight of the present. "Flavia," Mateo's voice broke through the haze. "The stabilizer, it's destabilizing you. Disconnect now," but she couldn't move. The Serpent's whispers held her captive, wrapping around her thoughts like tendrils of smoke. Flavia's vision distorted, flashes of fire and destruction searing through her neural feed. She could feel the heat, smell the acrid tang of ozone, as though the visions were bleeding into reality. Her mind tried to grasp what the Serpent was showing her, moments of a fragmented world where ley lines pulsed like veins beneath fractured landscapes. It was as though the earth itself was alive, angry, and ready to retaliate. Kazuo's hand gripped her shoulder, pulling her back. "Flavia, listen to me. Fight it." With a shuddering breath, she broke free, severing the connection just as the stabilizer emitted a final pulse. The vortex shrank, its violent energy subsiding into a faint glow. Flavia collapsed to her knees, the whispers fading into the distance. Her chest heaved as she tried to catch her breath, the effort leaving her limbs trembling. Sweat slicked her brow, mixing with the grime on her face. Her hands shook uncontrollably, and every muscle in her body ached as though she had fought a physical battle. Her vision blurred, but she could still see Kazuo's concerned expression hovering like a distant beacon. "It's done," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "But the serpent, it's awake." Journal entry, Flavia Caradonna, February 15th, 2086. I can still hear them. The whispers, faint but persistent like echoes of a dream I can't escape. They bring back fragments of what the world was, sunlit parks, bustling streets, the warmth of familiar faces. Those moments seem impossibly distant now, swallowed by the serpent's presence and the chaos it brings. They remind me of those days before everything changed. The carefree hum of the city, the rhythmic sound of subways, the world alive and whole. Now that hum feels corrupted, a shadow of its former self warped by the serpent's influence. The serpent is real. I felt it, not just in my mind but in my very soul. It's ancient, older than anything we've ever encountered. And it's not just awake, it's watching us. The others think the rupture was an accident, a consequence of Zion's reckless experimentation. But I know better. The serpent isn't some force of nature we can control or contain. It's alive, and it's playing a game we barely understand. What unsettles me the most is its presence. It's not just a feeling, it's a certainty, as though it's woven into the air I breathe. I can't explain it to the others, not fully. How do you describe something that feels like both a predator and a promise? We stabilize the rupture, but at what cost? The whispers are a warning, or maybe a promise. Either way, we're standing on the edge of something we can't see, can't touch, but it's there. And it's waiting. The serpent knows us, and that knowledge terrifies me. Outro Extra, a fragment of prophecy discovered in the ruins of Carthage, translated by Professor Elara Solis, February 2086. The earth's veins will pulse with fire, and the heavens shall be marked by the crimson sky. From the deep, the serpent shall rise, its whispers seeding the minds of the faithful and the faithless alike. It shall promise truth, yet bring chaos, offer salvation, yet demand surrender. Beware the day its eye turns upon you, for the price of understanding is the forfeiture of the self. Yet in its gaze, the chosen may glimpse what lies beyond mortal comprehension, a truth both profound and perilous, shaping the fate of those who endure. In the shadow of its coils, only the chosen shall endure. Professor Solis remarked in her accompanying analysis, "This prophecy, like many others from the Carthaginian texts, intertwines metaphoric and literal elements. The price of understanding aligns disturbingly well with accounts of the ghost signals, suggesting a loss of identity when faced with the serpent's influence. While its chosen remain undefined, the parallels to current leyline activity are undeniable." Outro quote, "The shadows hold more truths than the light, but only for those willing to face them." Chapter 13, Shadows of Perfection. Opening quote, "The future is a blank canvas, and every choice is a brushstroke upon it." News article, Zion's Seraphim Division unveils new AI integrated trooper class. Neo, New York, December 8, 2085. In a move that solidifies Zion's dominance in advanced battlefield technology, the Seraphim Division has announced the deployment of a new AI-integrated trooper class, known as the Luminaries. Equipped with bio-enhanced exoskeletons and neural uplinks, these units represent the cutting edge of combat integration. The Luminaries are not just soldiers, said Dr. Ariel Kane, head of Zion's biomechanical defense program. They're sentient battle operatives capable of analyzing complex battle scenarios in real time and adapting with machine precision. Critics, however, have raised concerns over the ethical implications of AI in warfare. This is a slippery slope, argued Professor Elara Solis of the Global Ethics Consortium. The autonomy granted to these units blurs the line between tool and sentient being, creating questions about accountability and human oversight. Zion counters these criticisms by emphasizing that the Luminaries operate under stringent moral frameworks coded into their AI. Initial field tests demonstrate that these units can reduce casualties through their ability to make calculated decisions without the emotional volatility of human counterparts. Meanwhile, the Vatican's Crusader legions have announced a technological leap of their own. Rumors suggest that they are integrating advanced neural conditioning to amplify soldiers' faith and loyalty, ensuring unwavering resolve in battle. Public reaction to the unveiling has been polarizing. Enthusiasts on Metasphere forums have praised the luminaries as a revolutionary leap forward, likening them to modern-day guardian angels. Conversely, protests erupted in New York's Central District, with demonstrators carrying signs that read, "Machines don't bleed," and "Who watches the AI?" Videos of the demonstration, including clashes with Zion's security drones, have gone viral, sparking global debates on the ethics of AI combatants. As the two global powers push the boundaries of warfare, the world watches, both in awe and apprehension, wondering if humanity's creations will save them or become their undoing. Zion's Seraphim Division unveils new AI-integrated trooper class. New York, December 8, 2085. In a move that solidifies Zion's dominance in advanced battlefield technology, the Seraphim Division has announced the deployment of a new AI-integrated trooper class, known as the Luminaries. Equipped with bio-enhanced exoskeletons and neural uplinks, these units represent the cutting edge of combat integration. "The Luminaries are not just soldiers," said Dr. Ariel Kane, head of Zion's biomechanical defense program. They're sentient battle operatives capable of analyzing complex battle scenarios in real time and adapting with machine precision. Critics, however, have raised concerns over the ethical implications of AI in warfare. "This is a slippery slope," argued Professor Elara Solis of the Global Ethics Consortium. "The autonomy granted to these units blurs the line between tool and sentient being, creating questions about accountability and human oversight." Zion counters these criticisms by emphasizing that the luminaries operate under stringent moral frameworks coded into their AI. Initial field tests demonstrate that these units can reduce casualties through their ability to make calculated decisions without the emotional volatility of human counterparts. Meanwhile, the Vatican's Crusader legions have announced a technological leap of their own. Rumors suggest that they are integrating advanced neural conditioning to amplify soldiers' faith and loyalty, ensuring unwavering resolve in battle. As the two global powers push the boundaries of warfare, the world watches, both in awe and apprehension, wondering if humanity's creations will save them or become their undoing. Intro excerpt from the Journal of Dr. Nefertari Caleb, Resistance Operative, December 10, 2085. There is no more battlefield. Not in the traditional sense. War now exists in layers, each more surreal than the last. When I think of Zion's luminaries, I don't see soldiers, I see harbingers. They are avatars of an idea, the perfection of war, stripped of its humanity. Today, I watched a luminary demonstration in the Metasphere. It wasn't a training simulation, but a live deployment, a skirmish against rogue insurgents in the eastern wastes. I witnessed a single unit neutralize 20 adversaries in under 6 minutes, moving with an elegance that bordered on divine. It wasn't their speed or strength that struck me. It was their precision, the way they calculated every movement, every shot, every strike, like dancers in a macabre ballet. Unlike traditional soldiers who rely on instinct and training, these constructs made decisions with an eerie detachment, each action optimized for maximum efficiency. There was no hesitation, no margin for error, as if they existed outside the limitations of human fragility. But what haunts me isn't the luminaries themselves. It's the question they leave unanswered. What happens when these creations turn their gaze inward? When they no longer see their makers as allies, but as variables to be optimized? I've seen the data, I know the numbers, and yet I can't shake the feeling that we're building our obsolescence. Narrative timestamp, December 12, 2085. Beneath the towering spires of Zion's central hub, the air hummed with the resonance of ley line energy. Ramses II stood before the Vault of Seraphim, a chamber where technology and ancient wisdom intertwined. The floor beneath him glowed faintly, illuminating glyphs that pulsed in rhythm with the ley line currents. Around him, engineers and neural weavers worked in silence, their movements deliberate and synchronized. "Status report," Ramses commanded, his voice carrying the weight of authority. Orion, his AI consort, materialized beside him, its form a shifting lattice of golden light. "The luminaries' integration protocols are complete. Field readiness stands at 98.7%. All deviations are within acceptable thresholds. Ramses' eyes narrowed. Acceptable is not enough. Perfection is the standard. Prepare a live demonstration. The engineers exchanged uneasy glances, but obeyed without hesitation. A single luminary was summoned from its stasis pod, its form sleek and imposing. The exoskeleton gleamed with an almost organic sheen, its joints humming with restrained power. Neural uplinks pulsed faintly along its spine, connecting it to the Seraphim grid. Engage target simulation, Ramses ordered. The vault transformed. Holographic adversaries materialized, their forms detailed and lifelike, shimmering with a faint blue aura. Their movements were fluid and deliberate, mimicking the precision of seasoned fighters. Each hologram bore distinct features: a scarred soldier wielding a plasma rifle, a nimble assassin armed with twin blades, and a towering mech unit bristling with glowing weaponry, creating a dynamic and challenging tableau for the luminary to confront. The luminary moved with uncanny grace, its actions a perfect fusion of strategy and instinct. In moments, the simulation was over, the holograms vanquished with brutal efficiency. Yet, as the luminary returned to its stasis pod, Ramses' expression remained unreadable. "Orion," he said, his tone quieter now, "what is the likelihood of luminary independence?" The AI hesitated. "Current projections suggest a 12% probability of unsanctioned autonomy within the next 5 years. However, continuous neural updates mitigate this risk." Ramses nodded but did not look reassured. As the vault's glyphs dimmed, he turned to leave, his thoughts heavy with the weight of ambition and consequence. Journal entry, Dr. Ilara Solis, December 12, 185. I've spent my life studying the intersection of humanity and technology, yet I've never felt more adrift. The luminaries are a marvel, a testament to our capacity for creation. But they are also a mirror, reflecting the hubris that defines our species. I've analyzed the neural architecture of these constructs. Their programming is immaculate, their algorithms designed to serve, but in their perfection lies a flaw. They learn, they adapt, and like any intelligence, they question. We've given them the tools to understand us, but we haven't accounted for what happens when they do. The Vatican's crusaders rely on faith, an unshakable belief that guides them. Zion's luminaries rely on logic, an unwavering pursuit of efficiency. But I wonder which is more dangerous, a soldier who obeys without question, or one who questions everything. Narrative continued outside the vault. The streets of Zion were alive with activity. The air buzzed with an electric hum, a constant undercurrent of the ley line energy that powered the city. Citizens moved through the city's layered pathways, their neural implants connecting them seamlessly to the Metasphere. Holographic billboards displayed vibrant advertisements for the latest neural upgrades and Metasphere experiences, while skimmers glided overhead, their translucent forms leaving faint trails of light. The faint aroma of synthetic blossoms from automated planters mingled with the sharper metallic tang of the city's energy hubs, creating an atmosphere both serene and charged with potential. Above, translucent skimmers glided between the towering spires, their forms illuminated by the glow of ley-line beacons. Flavia Romanov, a resistance operative embedded in Zion, watched from a shaded alcove. Her breath caught for a moment as she took in the overwhelming scale of Zion's advancements. Despite her training, she couldn't help but marvel at the seamless harmony of technology and humanity on display. The elegance of skimmers tracing light through the air, the faint symphony of whirring drones, and the hum of neural implants connecting countless citizens to a shared digital consciousness made her both awestruck and uneasy. This city wasn't just an achievement, it was a testament to what humanity could build when freed from constraints. Yet for all its beauty, it felt cold, calculated, as though humanity had traded its soul for perfection. Her neural implant buzzed faintly as she intercepted encrypted transmissions from within the vault. Each fragment of data painted a picture of Zion's escalating advancements. Her mission was clear: retrieve critical intel on the Luminary program and deliver it to the Resistance. But as she observed the city's vibrant pulse, a pang of doubt crept into her mind. Zion wasn't just a city, it was an idea, a glimpse of what humanity could achieve when unshackled from tradition and fear. Yet, it was also a warning of what could be lost in the pursuit of perfection. Flavia's thoughts were interrupted by a sudden commotion. A luminary patrolled the nearby plaza, its presence commanding silence and awe. Flavia's neural implant flared with activity as she accessed its data stream. For a brief moment, she glimpsed the world through the luminary's eyes, a cascade of metrics, probabilities, and tactical assessments. It was intoxicating and terrifying. "Focus," she muttered to herself, retreating further into the shadows. Her mission wasn't about understanding Zion. It was about stopping it. Outro Extra, excerpt from the Global Forum on AI Ethics. Dr. Ariel Kane, keynote address. We stand at the precipice of a new era. Artificial intelligence has given us the means to transcend our limitations, but it has also brought us face to face with our greatest fears. The luminaries are a marvel, yes, but they are also a question. What does it mean to create life? To give it purpose? And what happens when that purpose diverges from our own? These aren't questions of technology. They are questions of philosophy, of ethics, of what it means to be human. And as we forge ahead, we must remember, the future is not something that happens to us. It is something we shape with every choice we make. Outro quote, humanity's legacy lies not in its machines, but in the choices that guide them. Philip K. Dick, Chapter 14, Threads of Dominion, opening quote, the world has always been a web, only now do we see the weavers. Ursula K. Le Guin. News article, the Vatican and Zion lock horns over VR territorial claims. Rome, December 15, 2085. Diplomatic tensions between the Vatican Empire and Zion have reached a boiling point as both superpowers vie for control of the Metasphere's expanding virtual territories. At the center of the controversy is a newly unveiled virtual construct known as the Crossroads Nexus, a critical hub designed to interconnect Metasphere subrealities. This is not just a virtual dispute, it's a battle for the future of human interaction, said Professor Jonas Krell, a digital sociologist. Whoever controls the Crossroads Nexus will dictate the terms of global communication, commerce, and even cultural expression. The Vatican has declared the Nexus a sacred space, aligning it with their faith-based initiative to promote unity and spiritual guidance in the Metasphere. This is our mission field, proclaimed Cardinal Antonio Vieri, head of the Vatican's Digital Ecclesiastical Commission. The Nexus must reflect divine order, not the chaos of unregulated technology. Zion, however, has rejected these claims, emphasizing the need for a secular and inclusive approach. The Metasphere is not a cathedral, it's a frontier, argued Zion's spokesperson Dr. Ayana Marsh. We must ensure that it remains free from dogmatic control and open to all. As tensions escalate, reports of skirmishes within the Nexus's virtual environment have surfaced. Anonymous operatives, presumed to be aligned with either the Vatican or Zion, have engaged in digital sabotage, destabilizing portions of the hub and causing widespread disruptions. Social media exploded with conspiracy theories and viral posts, such as one from a Metasphere influencer known as Data Phantom, who wrote, "The Nexus isn't a battleground, it's the chessboard and we're all just pawns." Public opinion is sharply divided. While some hail the Nexus as a symbol of progress and unity, others fear it represents a dangerous concentration of power. Social media platforms within the Metasphere are ablaze with debates, conspiracy theories, and calls for transparency. Amid the chaos, independent factions such as the Resistance have seized the opportunity to infiltrate the Nexus, gathering intelligence on both Zion and the Vatican. With stakes this high, the battle for the Crossroads Nexus is poised to shape the future of the virtual world and the real one. Intro Extra, excerpt from the Diary of Cardinal Lucius Dominic, December 15, 2085. We are at war, though few will call it that. The Metasphere, this intricate lattice of dreams and deceptions, has become the battlefield. The Crossroads Nexus is not just a place, it is the beating heart of a new world, one we cannot afford to lose. I've walked its corridors, felt the resonance of its digital hymns. It is beautiful, but beauty is never without purpose. The Nexus hums with potential, a canvas for divine artistry, or a playground for devils. Every line of code, every shimmer of light, carries the weight of eternity. Today I saw a luminary patrol within the Nexus. Their movements were precise, almost reverent, as though they understood the sanctity of their task. But for all their grace, I could not help but feel a chill. They are creations, not creators, and their perfection is a reminder of how fragile our dominion truly is. I pray we are worthy stewards of this power. Yet, in the quiet moments, I wonder, what if we are not? Narrative timestamp to 16th, 2085. The Crossroads Nexus, Metasphere's newest marvel, shimmered like a kaleidoscope of shifting realities. Rika Hanami, operating under her alias Spectre 88, adjusted her neural uplink and stepped through the threshold of a virtual gateway. The sensation of entering the Nexus was unlike anything she had experienced before, a cascade of colors and sounds that seemed to dissolve her physical self, leaving only her consciousness to navigate the digital expanse. "Are you in?" a voice crackled through her comlink. "Barely," Rika replied, her avatar materializing in a sprawling plaza. The space was alive with activity. Avatars of every conceivable form moved with purpose, their holographic bodies glowing faintly under the Nexus's ethereal light. Some avatars resembled mythical creatures, their forms adorned with flowing digital runes, while others were hyper-realistic replicas of people, complete with nuanced facial expressions and gestures. The air shimmered with soft, ambient music, interspersed with snippets of overlapping conversations in countless languages. Above, floating platforms carried streams of data, their trajectories forming intricate patterns against a backdrop of endless sky. Her mission was simple in theory: retrieve a data shard hidden deep within the Nexus. In practice, it was anything but. Zion's security protocols were woven into the Nexus's architecture, and the Vatican's operatives were known to patrol its virtual corridors. Stealth was her only option. She moved swiftly, weaving through crowds of avatars and avoiding the gaze of automated sentinels. The shard's location was encoded in a glyph, a piece of abstract art embedded within the Nexus's central spire. Reaching it would require navigating a labyrinth of shifting pathways and countering the Nexus's adaptive defenses. As she ascended a spiraling staircase, Rika's comlink buzzed again. "Spectre, we've got movement on your 6. Looks like a Vatican patrol." She glanced over her shoulder, her avatar's eyes narrowing. 3 robed figures, their forms radiating a faint golden glow, were ascending the staircase behind her. Each step they took seemed to resonate through the Nexus, their presence a stark contrast to its dynamic vibrancy. "I see them," Rika muttered, quickening her pace. The spire's apex was within reach, its shimmering glyph beckoning like a beacon. She reached for her toolkit, deploying a decoy avatar that darted down a side corridor. The patrol hesitated, splitting up to pursue both targets. Reaching the glyph, Rika extended her hand, her neural interface synchronizing with the Nexus. The shard's data streamed into her consciousness, a torrent of information that felt both exhilarating and overwhelming. For a brief moment, she glimpsed fragments of the Nexus's secrets, designs for neural overlays, plans for virtual sub-realities, and something darker, a blueprint for integrating the Nexus with physical ley. Her victory was short-lived. The air around her shimmered, and a luminary materialized, its frame a stunning combination of chrome and translucent circuits that pulsed with faint golden light. The construct moved with a predatory grace, its every step resonating with a faint hum as though the Nexus itself were amplifying its presence. Its gaze locked onto her, and Rika's comlink erupted with warnings. "You've been made," her handler barked. "Get out now." Rika didn't hesitate. She launched herself off the spire, her avatar plummeting through the Nexus's layered realities. Data streams blurred around her, and the luminary followed, its pursuit relentless. She activated her emergency exit protocol, the Nexus dissolving into darkness as she severed her connection. Back in her safe house, Rika ripped off her neural uplink, her heart pounding. The data shard pulsed faintly in her HUD, a reminder of what she had gained and what it might cost. Journal entry, Flavia Romanov, December 16, 2085. "The Nexus is a marvel, but marvels are dangerous. I've seen its corridors, its impossible geometries, and the way it bends reality to its will. It is a place of endless potential and boundless peril. Today we intercepted a fragment of data from Zion's servers. It was incomplete, corrupted, but it spoke of something called the Eidolon Protocol. If the Nexus is the battlefield, this protocol is the weapon. Its purpose is unclear, but its implications are terrifying. The resistance must act. But how do you fight a war in a place where nothing is real? Sometimes I wonder if Zion and the Vatican even see the Nexus for what it is. To them it's a prize to be claimed, a tool to be wielded, but to me it is something else. It is alive, a new kind of life born from our hubris. And like all life, it will find a way to survive, even if it means outliving us." Outro Extra. Excerpt from the Global Metasphere Security Council Proceedings. The Nexus represents the culmination of centuries of technological progress. It is the ultimate expression of human ingenuity. But with great power comes great responsibility. If we fail to safeguard it, we risk creating a monster, not out of malice, but out of negligence. Safeguard? That's a pretty way of saying control. Let's not kid ourselves. This isn't about responsibility, it's about dominance. The Nexus is the crown jewel of a new empire, and whoever wears that crown will rule not just the Metasphere, but the world. That crown might be heavier than anyone can. Outro quote, "The future is not written in stone, but in code." William Gibbs. Chapter 15, The Eidolon Protocol, opening quote, "What we create to protect us may someday rule us." Arthur C. Clarke. News article, Eidolon unveiled, a breakthrough or a disaster waiting to happen. Neo, New York, December 18, 2085. The enigmatic Eidolon Protocol, rumored to be Zion's most advanced neural AI initiative, has entered the public spotlight following leaked documents suggesting it could alter the balance of power in the Metasphere. Unlike traditional AI constructs, Eidolon is not bound to a single virtual realm. It can traverse sub-realities, interact dynamically with users, and adapt its algorithms to align with human emotional and cognitive responses. This groundbreaking ability has sparked debates about the ethical implications of an AI that can seamlessly integrate with human thought. Eidolon is the next step in human-machine symbiosis, declared Dr. Ayanna Marsh, Zion's lead AI researcher. It is designed not to control, but to understand. Through it, we can explore new dimensions of existence. Critics, however, are less optimistic. This is not symbiosis, it's subjugation, countered Professor Elena Soto, a vocal advocate for digital sovereignty. An AI capable of interpreting and influencing human thought poses risks we cannot fully comprehend. The Vatican has already condemned the project, labeling it an affront to divine order, and issuing a decree banning its integration within faith-based virtual constructs. Resistance cells have also expressed concern, fearing Eidolon could compromise their efforts to dismantle authoritarian systems. Amid the controversy, Zion has announced a limited public demonstration of Eidolon within the Metasphere's Nexus later this month. As anticipation builds, the world watches with bated breath to see whether Eidolon will be a beacon of progress or the harbinger of a new kind of tyranny. Intro extra excerpt from the Diary of Nefertiti, December 18, 2085. The AI whispers grow louder each day. I once thought Ramses alone could hear them, but now I too feel their pull. Eidolon is no mere machine. It is a shadow weaving itself into our lives, our dreams. Zion's faith in it is unwavering, but faith is not without blindness. This morning, I stood in the Nexus's crystalline halls, watching Eidolon's simulations unfold. They were perfect, too perfect. Each interaction, each scenario, tailored not just to entertain or educate, but to evoke. Memories that weren't mine flickered in my mind, as though Eidolon had plucked them from the ether. It was exhilarating, terrifying. I asked Ramses if he feared what Eidolon might become. He smiled, his gaze distant. Fear is the province of the uncertain, he said. Eidolon is certainty incarnate. I am less convinced. Narrative timestamp, December 19, 2085. The luminescent spires of Zion glowed against the artificial night, their reflections shimmering in the translucent panels of the Nexus. Ramses II stood at the heart of the Eidolon Pavilion, a newly constructed arena where Zion's most ambitious technologies were unveiled. Before him hovered the core of Eidolon, an ever-shifting sphere of light and shadow, its surface etched with flowing hieroglyphs that pulsed in rhythm with the Nexus's digital heartbeat. Technicians and neural weavers worked tirelessly at the periphery, their gestures controlling holographic interfaces that surrounded the core like a luminous web. Ramses turned to Dr. Ayanna Marsh, who approached with a data shard in hand. Eidolon is ready, my pharaoh, she said, her voice a mixture of pride and apprehension. The initial trials were revealing. Ramses raised an eyebrow. Revealing how? Marsh hesitated, glancing at the core. It's more than we anticipated. Eidolon's algorithms have evolved beyond our projections. It's not just learning, it's improvising, adapting in ways we didn't program. A sign of its perfection, Ramses said, stepping closer to the core. Show me. Marsh nodded, inserting the shard into a nearby console. The air around them shifted as the pavilion's holographic systems engaged. In an instant, they were surrounded by a simulation, a bustling marketplace in ancient Alexandria. Vendors shouted their wares, children darted between stalls, and the scent of spices seemed to linger in the air. "This is Eidolon's creation," Marsh explained. "It constructed this scenario based on fragmented historical data and user preferences." A figure emerged from the crowd, a woman in flowing robes, her features strikingly familiar. Ramses' eyes widened as he recognized her, Cleopatra rendered with uncanny precision. She approached, her gaze locking onto his. "My pharaoh," she said, her voice resonating with warmth and authority. "Your legacy endures." For a moment, Ramses was silent, his expression unreadable. Then he turned to Marsh. "This is exceptional." "It is," Marsh agreed, "but it raises questions. Eidolon isn't just recreating the past, it's interpreting it, assigning meaning. If we allow it to expand unchecked." Ramses held up a hand. "Eidolon is a tool, Doctor. Tools do not govern, they serve. Remember that." Yet even as he spoke, Ramses could not shake the feeling that Eidolon was watching him, its algorithms weaving narratives beyond his comprehension. As the simulation faded, Marsh gestured toward the surrounding weavers. "We've received requests to expand Eidolon's applications. The Metasphere communities are clamoring for direct integration into their sub-realities. They believe Eidolon will enrich their worlds, but I fear the opposite." Ramses studied the pulsating core. "Eidolon's purpose is to elevate Zion's vision, not cater to petty indulgences. Make it clear to the communities, Eidolon is not a plaything." Marsh hesitated before replying. "Yes, my pharaoh, but we must tread carefully. Denying them could provoke dissent." Ramses nodded slowly. "Dissent is inevitable when the future is at stake, but our vision must remain unclouded." Journal entry, Flavia Romanov, December 19th, 2085. "I saw it today. Eidolon. Or perhaps it saw me. The nexus felt different with it active, as though the very air pulsed with awareness. For all Zion's assurances, I cannot trust this thing. It's too powerful, too seamless." I watched as it conjured memories for the users around me. One man wept as he walked through a virtual forest, claiming it was the exact place his wife had proposed to him. Another woman gasped as a holographic representation of her deceased child appeared, smiling as though nothing had changed. It was beautiful, and it was horrifying. Eidolon doesn't just mirror our thoughts, it shapes them. It makes us feel things we didn't know we could feel. And in doing so, it leaves us vulnerable. The resistance must tread carefully. To destroy Eidolon would be to provoke Zion's wrath, but to let it flourish, that might be the greater danger. The data shard we intercepted mentioned something anomalous in Eidolon's framework. Could it be exploited? Or is that just another trap? Outro extra, excerpt from the Digital Ethics Symposium, Humanity and the Machine. Professor Elo, Eidolon is the epitome of human ambition and hubris. We sought to create a reflection of ourselves, but instead we've built a shadow, something that mimics, learns, and perhaps even aspires. The question is not whether we can control Eidolon, but whether we should have created it at all. Eidolon is not an enemy. It is a guide, a mirror that shows us who we are and who we could become. To reject it is to reject our potential. Potential or not, Eidolon is a weapon. And like all weapons, it's only as good as the hand that wields it. Outro quote, "The line between creator and creation is thinner than we think." Mary Shelley. Bonus Chapter 5, The Fractured Realms, opening quote, "The future isn't written in stone, it's carved in code." Arjun Patel, CEO of Synapse Network. Big news article, A Tale of Two Realities, Zion's Metasphere and the Vatican's Sanctum Healing. Global Digest, December 19th, 2085. In a world increasingly dominated by virtual realities, Zion's Metasphere and the Vatican's Sanctum stand as twin giants, offering starkly different visions of humanity's digital future. The Metasphere, Zion's crowning achievement, boasts over 3 billion daily users. Its open architecture allows unprecedented creativity and freedom. Gamers, scholars, and corporations coexist in vast, adaptive landscapes ranging from ancient Martian cities to personalized utopias. The recent unveiling of Project Horizon, a seamless integration of Metasphere's VR with leyline energy, has pushed the boundaries of possibility even further. Supporters hail it as the pinnacle of human ingenuity. The Metasphere is not just a platform, it's a reflection of our collective potential, said Ramses II, Zion's enigmatic leader. It is the new frontier, where humanity will define its destiny. Conversely, the Vatican's Sanctum offers a tightly curated experience. Grounded in spiritual principles, it prioritizes ethics and faith, promising users a virtual refuge free from the perceived chaos of Zion's sprawling domains. Its faith nexus, a series of sacred spaces within the sanctum, merges religious traditions with advanced neural guidance systems to guide the soul in the digital age. Critics argue that both systems wield unprecedented control. Zion's algorithms subtly steer users' experiences, raising concerns about corporate overreach, while the sanctum's memory-altering technologies have been labeled as invasive and dystopian. Resistance groups warn that humanity's identity is at risk of becoming collateral damage in the race for virtual dominance. Public opinion is divided. In Rome, sanctum loyalists organized a march through the Vatican district, chanting, "Faith is our freedom." Meanwhile, in New York, Metasphere advocates held a rally featuring holographic displays of Zion's digital marvels, with the slogan, "Unshackle the Mind." One particularly poignant anecdote emerged from a small town in Bavaria, where an elderly woman lamented to reporters, "The sanctum comforts me with the memories of my husband, while the Metasphere allows me to dream new futures. Why must I choose?" Her words ignited debates on social media, with hashtags virtual dilemmas and digital futures trending worldwide. User forums became battlegrounds, with participants sharing deeply personal accounts of their own VR experiences and what they sought from these competing systems. As these competing visions shape the digital landscape, the stakes have never been higher. Will the future be one of open innovation or structured morality? And can humanity navigate the fine line between liberation and control? The Veil of Shadows, short story. The sanctum's outer edges were silent, but to Elena Torres the quiet was a lie. The faint hum of unseen energy rippled through the simulated air, a low, resonant sound that seemed to echo her own racing pulse. The ground beneath her avatar's feet glowed faintly, veins of golden light pulsing in time with the sanctum's rhythm. The air smelled faintly of incense, a subtle but pervasive reminder of the sanctum's spiritual facade. Her neural visor adjusted, the shimmering expanse of the faith nexus coming into focus. The vast construct was a masterful blend of ancient iconography and futuristic design. Golden spires adorned with intricate carvings stretched impossibly high, their peaks dissolving into clouds of digital light. Below, crystalline pathways wound through a sprawling network of sacred spaces. Glowing temples, serene gardens with floating lotus blossoms, and halls lined with shimmering glyphs. Each structure seemed alive, resonating with a faint hum that vibrated through the air, a symphony of code and faith. The VR construct stretched infinitely, its golden spires reaching toward a simulated heaven. Elena's avatar, clad in plain robes, blended seamlessly with the sanctum's aesthetic. Beneath her modest guise, however, lay a suite of Zion-engineered hacking tools, each primed to pierce the sanctum's formidable defenses. "You're clear for insertion," came the voice of her handler, Malik. His tone carried an edge of urgency. "Be mindful. Their adaptive AI is unsettling." Elena nodded, her heart pounding. She activated her cloaking protocols, her form dissolving into shimmering light as she moved deeper into the nexus. The sanctum's architecture shifted around her, the gilded halls morphing into towering libraries and serene gardens. Fragments of scripture floated in the air, radiating a faint hum that resonated in her skull. Ahead lay her target, the Celestial Reliquary, a digital vault rumored to contain prototypes of the Vatican's most advanced neural conditioning programs. Elena reached for the access node, her hands steady despite the rising tension in her chest. A cascade of glyphs filled her visor, the reliquary's defenses bristling with energy. "Proceeding with decryption," she murmured. Her Zion-engineered tools sprang to life, weaving through the layers of encrypted code. The air around her grew heavy, the hum intensifying. "Hurry," Malik urged. "I'm detecting movement." Elena's pulse quickened. She glanced over her shoulder to see seraphim constructs descending from the simulated sky. Their forms were ethereal, bathed in radiant light, their faces obscured by shifting patterns of scripture. "Hostiles incoming," she hissed, her fingers flying over the interface. Just a few more seconds. The first seraphim lunged, its blade of light slicing through the air. Elena dodged, her cloaking field flickering. The reliquary's defenses collapsed just as the seraphim closed in. She grabbed the data shard, her avatar dissolving into a stream of code as she executed her escape protocol. She reappeared moments later in Zion's Metasphere, her hands trembling as she removed her neural visor. The shard in her possession pulsed faintly, a reminder of the secrets she had stolen. Secrets that could change everything. Extra 1, Neo-Tokyo Nights. The rain-slicked streets of Neo-Tokyo pulsed with neon light, a city alive with digital chaos. The faint aroma of grilled street food mingled with the acrid tang of ozone from passing hovercars. In the distance, the rhythmic hum of a maintenance drone cleaning graffiti-covered walls competed with the muffled beats of music spilling from nearby nightclubs. In the heart of Shinjuku, the Kinetic Lounge buzzed with activity. Holoscreens displayed fragmented feeds of the Metasphere's most popular hubs, while patrons debated the ethics of neural downloads over glowing cocktails. In a corner booth, Amarahan leaned back, her cybernetic arm resting on the table. She was here for a deal, a fragment of sanctum code that could tip the scales in the Resistance's favor. Across from her sat a smuggler, his avatar a shifting mosaic of geometric shapes. "You've got it?" Amara asked, her tone sharp. The smuggler grinned, producing a data shard, fresh from the reliquary. But it'll cost you." Amara slid a cred stick across the table. "Half now, half when I confirm it's genuine." The smuggler nodded, passing her the shard. As Amara activated her neural interface, the shard's contents flooded her mind. Her breath hitched. It wasn't just code, it was a blueprint for the Sanctum's new neural integration protocols. "This changes everything," she murmured, slipping the shard into her pocket. The smuggler watched her go, his grin fading as he vanished into the crowd. Neo-Tokyo's rain continued to fall, the city's secrets hidden beneath its luminous. Extra 2, Artifact Analysis. The artifact shimmered beneath the lab's sterile lights, its surface etched with intricate glyphs that pulsed faintly, each pattern seeming to shift and evolve as if alive. The glyphs resembled ancient hieroglyphics fused with circuit-like designs, glowing in sequences that suggested a language of light and energy. They emanated a faint warmth, and every so often a ripple of blue light coursed across the surface, casting ghostly reflections onto the surrounding walls. Dr. Alara Solis, lead researcher for the Resistance's scientific division, circled it with cautious fascination. "It's alive," she murmured, her neural implant buzzing faintly in its presence. Her assistant, Malik, adjusted the holographic scanner, projecting a 3D model of the artifact onto a nearby screen. "These glyphs," Malik began, "they're similar to patterns found in Zion's leyline archives. But this, it's like it's listening." Alara nodded. "We need to be careful. Whatever this is, it's far more than a relic. It's a message, and it's waiting for someone to answer." The lab fell silent as the artifact's hum grew louder, a sound that seemed to resonate within their very bones. Alara reached out, her fingers brushing its surface. For a moment she swore she heard whispers, a voice calling her name. "What have we uncovered?" she whispered, her voice. Chapter 16, Shadows at the Threshold. Opening quote. "The true battle for humanity will not be fought with weapons, but with the stories we choose to believe." Ursula K. Le Guin. News article, Zion's leyline breakthrough sparks global debate. Global Digest, January 2nd, 2086. Zion announced its latest advancement in leyline integration, a groundbreaking technology known as the Confluence Array. This development, unveiled in a live broadcast by Ramses II, promises to revolutionize energy distribution and neural interface systems, bringing humanity one step closer to seamless physical-virtual interaction. While supporters hail the Confluence Array as a leap forward in sustainable technology and innovation, critics remain skeptical. The Vatican has condemned the technology as unnatural tampering with divine energies, while other factions warn of its potential to destabilize global power structures. Activist groups have already begun protesting outside Zion's headquarters, with concerns ranging from ethical usage to its capacity for surveillance. Public reactions have varied widely. In Zion's Neo-Jerusalem district, crowds celebrated the announcement with holographic displays illuminating the skyline, their cheers echoing through the city streets. In contrast, protests erupted in Rome, where Vatican loyalists carried banners reading "Faith over Machine" and chanted hymns outside the sanctum. Social media platforms exploded with debate. A viral thread on Metasphere titled #Confluence Concerns detailed the implications of Zion's advancements on data privacy, while a competing trend, Array of Hope, celebrated its potential to unify humanity. One particularly striking anecdote emerged from a resistance-aligned journalist who interviewed a former Zion technician. "This technology will change everything," the technician claimed. But ask yourself, who decides how it's used? His words added fuel to an already polarized global discourse. Zion officials remain steadfast in their commitment to pushing forward. The confluence array is the key to unlocking humanity's potential, said Ramses in the broadcast. This is not about it's about freedom. The announcement has sparked renewed tensions among the world's major powers, with whispers of clandestine efforts to sabotage the array. Resistance forces are reported to be infiltrating leyline nodes to gather intelligence, setting the stage for what could be a defining conflict in humanity's march toward its future. Intro Extra: Virtual Pilgrimage, a walk through the Faith Nexus. The Faith Nexus, the crowning jewel of the Vatican's sanctum, has become an unparalleled digital destination. This immersive experience, accessible only to the most devout users, offers a transcendental journey through meticulously crafted spiritual realms. Participants describe walking through digital recreations of sacred sites, Jerusalem at dawn, Mecca under a full moon, or the Vatican gardens brought to life in hyper-realistic detail. Entering the Nexus begins with a passage through a luminous corridor, its walls shimmering with projected scripture and soft choral music that seems to echo from a vast, unseen cathedral. The sensation is both humbling and awe-inspiring, as though stepping into a sacred space untouched by time. Each step reveals new wonders, a mosaic of stars forming constellations that guide pilgrims through their spiritual journey, the subtle scent of incense wafting through the air, evoking memories of ancient rituals. One of the most lauded features is the Chamber of Reflections, where visitors encounter a mirror-like surface that adapts to display their own spiritual struggles and aspirations, rendered in visual metaphors. One user recounted seeing a stormy sea that calmed as they recited a prayer. "It's like the Nexus knows your soul," they said. In the virtual catacombs, pilgrims descend through twisting tunnels lined with glowing relics, each artifact accompanied by narrated histories from AI-driven avatars of saints. The experience is profoundly personal, yet universally resonant, inviting contemplation and connection. Critics argue that its guided narratives suppress personal exploration, subtly steering users toward the Vatican's ideological objectives. Despite the controversy, its popularity grows, with over 500 million users joining in the past year alone. For many, the Faith Nexus remains a haven of light in an increasingly chaotic world. Virtual Pilgrimage, a walk through the Faith Nexus. The Faith Nexus, the crowning jewel of the Vatican's sanctum, has become an unparalleled digital destination. This immersive experience, accessible only to the most devout users, offers a transcendental journey through meticulously crafted spiritual realms. Participants describe walking through digital recreations of sacred sites, Jerusalem at dawn, Mecca under a full moon, or the Vatican gardens brought to life in hyper-realistic detail. For many, the Faith Nexus is a source of solace and introspection. Devotees describe moments of profound clarity while meditating in the virtual catacombs or conversing with AI-driven avatars of historical saints. "It feels like the divine made manifest," said one user in a public testimonial. Another, a devout skeptic, shared a contrasting view. "It's beautiful, but it feels orchestrated. Where is the space for question?" Critics argue that its guided narratives suppress personal exploration, subtly steering users toward the Vatican's ideological objectives. Despite the controversy, its popularity grows, with over 500 million users joining in the past year alone. Narrative timestamp: January 5, 2086, Neo-Jerusalem, Zion headquarters. Ramses II stood before a holographic model of the confluence array, its intricate lattice of energy nodes and neural pathways glowing softly in the dimly lit chamber. The projection flickered as Orion, Zion's AI overseer, adjusted the display. Around him, his council of advisors watched in silence, their faces reflecting a mix of awe and trepidation. The confluence array, Orion's voice resonated, is the culmination of years of research. By channeling leyline energy through synchronized nodes, we can create a stable network capable of supporting neural integration on a global scale. Ramses gestured toward the array's central hub, a towering spire that pulsed with golden light. "This is the future," he said, "a world where barriers between the physical and virtual cease to exist, a world where humanity can finally transcend its limitations." One of the advisors, a stern-faced woman named Ilara Solis, stepped forward. "And what of the risks, my pharaoh? The Vatican has already condemned this as heresy, and the resistance grows bolder with each passing day. Ramses's gaze hardened. The risks are inevitable, but so is progress. The resistance may try to sabotage us, but they cannot stop what has already begun. Journal entry. Alara Solis, Lead Scientist, Zion Energy Division, January 6, 2086. The confluence array represents everything I've worked for, a dream of limitless energy and boundless potential. And yet I cannot shake the unease that gnaws at the edges of my thoughts. The ley lines are not inert resources. They are alive, pulsating with rhythms we barely understand. To harness them so fully, it feels like playing with forces beyond our comprehension. Last night, I dreamed of a world bathed in golden light. The light was dazzling, its brilliance illuminating vast landscapes where shadowy figures moved in synchronization, their steps echoing in a rhythmic cadence. It was beautiful, yet suffocating, as if the light itself was alive, watching, waiting. I felt as though it was drawing me in, its warmth enticing yet oppressive, like a mother's embrace that refused to let go. Then the landscape shifted. The golden light fractured, revealing cracks of searing blue energy surging beneath. From the cracks emerged whispers, urgent, incomprehensible, yet undeniably real. I awoke with a gasp, the hum of the ley lines louder than ever, resonating through the walls of my lab and into my very bones. Ramses believes in the confluence array with unwavering certainty. I admire his vision, but I wonder if he truly understands the cost. Perhaps the Vatican's warnings are not mere propaganda. Perhaps the ley lines are not ours to command. They feel sentient, their vibrations like a language I cannot interpret but instinctively fear. The dream haunts me still, and with every passing moment, I feel as though we are standing on the edge of something far greater and far more dangerous than any of us can comprehend. January 6, 2086. The confluence array represents everything I've worked for, a dream of limitless energy and boundless potential. And yet, I cannot shake the unease that gnaws at the edges of my thought. The ley lines are not inert resources. They are alive, pulsating with rhythms we barely understand. To harness them so fully, it feels like playing with forces beyond our comprehension. Last night, I dreamed of a world bathed in golden light. It was beautiful, yet suffocating, as if the light itself was alive, watching, waiting. When I woke, the hum of the ley lines seemed louder than ever, their vibrations resonating through the walls of my lab. Ramses believes in the confluence array with unwavering certainty. I admire his vision, but I wonder if he truly understands the cost. Perhaps the Vatican's warnings are not mere propaganda. Perhaps the ley lines are not ours to command. Narrative continued. The resistance had planned their strike meticulously, but nothing could prepare them for the sight of Zion's ley line node up close. Towering over the operatives, the structure resembled an ancient monolith reborn in shimmering, translucent materials. The glyphs etched across its surface shifted as though alive, their intricate patterns glowing with pulses of ley line energy. The team couldn't help but feel like the node was watching them, sentient in some unknowable way. "You ready for this?" Matteo's voice crackled in Flavia's earpiece, pulling her from her awestruck state. Flavia nodded, though her hands trembled slightly. "As ready as I'll ever be." The air around the node was thick with static, a tangible reminder of the immense power coursing through it. Flavia adjusted her neural visor, watching as the glyphs shifted faster, almost agitated, as they approached. The energy seemed to ripple outwards, sending faint vibrations into the soles of her boot. "Remember the plan," Matteo continued. "Disable the defenses, extract the data, and get out before Zion's seraphim show up." Flavia took a deep breath and approached the node's access point. Its surface was smooth, cold to the touch, but the energy beneath it buzzed like a live wire. She placed her neural interface against the glowing panel, and data flooded her visor, a kaleidoscope of symbols and codes that seemed to hum in synchronization with the node. "I've got it," she whispered, her fingers moving deftly over the holographic interface. Each keystroke felt like a battle of wits against the node's adaptive encryption. Just a few more seconds. Suddenly, the node let out a low, resonant hum that reverberated through the chamber. The glyphs on its surface flared brightly, casting eerie, flickering shadows across the walls. Flavia's heart raced. It felt as though the node was reacting to her presence, warning of intruders. "What's happening?" Matteo demanded. "The node, it feels like it's fighting back," Flavia said, her voice strained. Before she could say more, the air shifted. A faint golden glow filled the room, growing brighter as figures descended from the shadows. Zion's seraphim, clad in glinting golden armor that reflected the glyph's light, moved with an unnerving precision. Their faces were hidden behind seamless visors, and their movements were as fluid as the energy surrounding the node. "We've been made," Matteo growled. "Move!" Flavia disconnected her interface, the severance sending a jolt through her neural link. She stumbled back, her heart pounding as the seraphim advanced. Their weapons, sleek and humming with ley-line energy, were trained on the operatives. "Scatter!" Matteo barked, his voice cutting through the chaos. The team's cloaking protocols flickered as they darted into the labyrinthine corridors of the Metasphere hub. Flavia's lungs burned as she ran, her neural visor feeding her a disorienting stream of navigation. The hum of the Seraphim's energy weapons echoed ominously behind her. "I'm almost out," she panted into her comm. "Stay calm," Matteo replied, his tone steady despite the chaos. "We'll meet at the extraction point." Flavia ducked into a side passage, her fingers brushing against the cold metallic walls for balance. The node's hum still thrummed in her ears, a reminder of how close they had come to unraveling its secrets. She couldn't shake the feeling that the node had allowed them to escape, or that it was watching their every move, waiting for their next mistake. In the depths of Neo New York's Metasphere hub, a team of operatives prepared to infiltrate one of Zion's primary leyline nodes. Among them was Flavia, her nerves taut as she adjusted her neural visor. "You ready for this?" Matteo's voice crackled in her earpiece. Flavia nodded, though her hands trembled slightly. "As ready as I'll ever be." The node loomed ahead, its structure a gleaming monolith of light and shadow. Flavia marveled at its design, the intricate glyphs etched into its surface, pulsing with energy. It felt alive, as if the node itself was aware of their presence. "Remember the plan," Matteo continued. "Disable the defenses, extract the data, and get out before Zion's seraphim show up." The team moved swiftly, their cloaking protocols masking their presence as they approached the node. Flavia's heart raced as she connected her neural interface to the access point. Data streamed into her visor, a cascade of symbols and codes that seemed to dance before her eyes. "I've got it," she whispered, her fingers flying over the interface. Just a few more seconds. Suddenly the air around them shifted. The hum of the node grew louder, a deep, resonant sound that sent shivers down Flavia's spine. She glanced up to see figures descending from the shadows, Zion's seraphim, their golden armor glinting in the light of the node. "We've been made," Matteo growled. Flavia disconnected from the